In the Royal Rifles of Canada, there were 53 from Richmond, Gaspé, St. Jules. 53 of us. 10 were killed in battle. Three died in prison camp. You want to hear that story? My name is Phil Doddridge. On July 29th, 1940, I joined the Royal Rifles. My regimental number was E29986, and the rifle that I carried for, well, until it was taken away from me, the number was I59544. Well, I was the second youngest of a family of 7, born on and brought up on a mixed farm. Well, of course, I was 17, 18 and didn't know much about the world or anything about it. One evening, we're strolling down Main Street, and we came to the Gaspé House Hotel, and there was a sign in the window, "Join the Army." We went in, and we were signed up. I don't recall, maybe we were probably a day or so before we got on the train to go to Quebec. Then we went and joined the rest of the regiment in Balcartier. It wasn't very fancy. We were given a big mattress cover and pointed to a pile of straw and said, "Use it sparingly because you don't put too much in because it'll lump and make you uncomfortable." That was to save on straw. Left, right, left, right. We did basic training there. I remember kids swimming in the harbor right off the ship. And the sampans, of course, crowded with families, and sampans lined up 15 or 20 deep. And it struck me that the guy that lived in the furthest away would have to cross all the ones in between to get to shore. And of course, those families lived on those little boats the year round. And marching up Nathan Road to Chamchapeau Barracks. It was probably 3 miles, I guess. Yeah, the food was pretty good. We learned what kippers were and fish for breakfast, which is something that I'd never done before. And of course, we had servants that would come in and shave you in bed and polish your boots and make your bed and make sure your mosquito net was tucked in and all that. And the story goes that they turned out to be Japanese implants, Japanese spies. Maybe they were. The first day, we were ordered to go and defend Mount, I guess it's Bridge Hill. I'm always confused about the names of the different peaks on the island. And it was Bridge Hill, I guess. Anyway, we walked up the water catchment, about, it must have been a mile up to the top of the hill. And we were overlooking the reservoir and a bridge across the reservoir. And the Japanese troops were crossing the bridge. There was some horses or mules probably, and some armored vehicles as well, and some troops on foot. And the fighting started, and they were firing at us with 6-inch mortars, or mortars, I think of 6-inch mortars. And several of our guys got killed there, and we had to retreat and we were just overwhelmed. That's it. And I remember Jim Dare, of course, was shot through he got a bullet through the leg, and we carried him out. Somebody had brought a ground sheet, so we wrapped that around 2 rifles anyway, made a makeshift stretcher. Now, Jim Dare was a big man. He probably weighed 200 pounds, and he was over 6 feet tall. So you can imagine now, his head was hanging over one end and his wounded leg over the other end. And we carried him down the water catchment. And I guess what happened when we got to the bottom, I don't recall. I know that I was exhausted. You see, the water catchment is about, I'll say 4 feet deep, but it's hardly that, hardly 4 feet deep. And now we're carrying this man. We couldn't carry him too low because the water was rising and he would have drowned, of course. And at the same time, we couldn't stand up and carry him because we'd be shot. So it was a pretty difficult trip. Anyway, we got to the bottom. Well, the night it got dark eventually before we got to the bottom, so I guess that saved us. The next episode that's in my memory is going to look for Lieutenant Simons. I started walking along the road, and this chap came along. His name was Rob Lee. I forget his first name. Anyway, he had commandeered a truck, a big 3-ton truck. So I got in with him, and away we went. After we got to Repulse Bay Hotel, and then on the way back we ran into a wall, and I got my head banged up a bit, and I was bleeding, and so he took me back to the hotel, and there was a nurse there that patched me up, and tried to persuade me to stay there, and I said, no, I have to go. I have to find Reggie Simons. So I started back and on foot. And seems to me I met Bob Boudreau. Anyway, we hid ourselves on a pillbox on the roof. Bob wanted to go in the pillbox, and I said, no, we better not, because it'd be too damn dangerous, because the Japs were all around us at that point. So we slept on the top, and the Japs moved away after a while, and we were able to leave. So I was still looking for Reggie Simons, and I never did find him. In the next big episode, of course, I found myself on the 24th of December with the rest of the regiment. I finally somehow got back to them by which means I don't recall. Anyway, we got to Stanley Fort, and the Japs had our ticket. Of course, they knew where we were, and they were bombing where they were shelling us in the fort at Stanley. And the next day, and this is something that is really I find very stupid, but anyway, we were told that there were 15 Japs in Stanley Village, and we had to go and rout them out. So away we went. There were more than 15 Japs there. and that was on Christmas Day, and that was the end of the fight. It was mainly D Company, and by that time our ranks had diminished, of course, from 125, which is full strength, more or less. There were probably, I don't know, I'll say 110 or maybe officers that went, and 45 of us came back. So it was quite a schmozzle. We left the fort, of course, and turned in our rifles and set off marching behind a truck when there was Japanese soldiers set up in the back of the truck with a machine gun trained on us, and I happened to be in the front rank for one reason I don't know, but I was looking right into the muzzle of the machine gun the whole way down, and there were dead bodies along the way, of course, because the battle had just finished, and it was pretty much of a mess everywhere. Arrived at North Point Camp. Now, North Point Camp was just a flat area on reclaimed ground and fenced in by barbed wire, and it had been used as a refugee camp for Chinese refugees moving south, and there was all kinds of debris lying around, horse manure and broken bottles and all kinds of junk, a filthy place. And anyway, we were herded into barracks there. There were long wooden huts with no furniture in the huts and a cement floor. And all we had with us, of course, was what we carried, which was, as I recall, one blanket. So then we set up residence there.